Monday morning, everybody. Welcome to a Jayda InStitches live stream. Today, I'm going to do a 1-hour doily challenge. So I am going to jump in immediately. I'm thankful that you're all here. Welcome, welcome, family, subscribers, everybody. Here we go. I want to make a doily. I want it to be quick. I want it to be simple. So I'm going to use big stitches, large open lacy repeating motifs, and I'm going to use really basic simple repeating patterns in this. It's not going to be very complicated at all because I just want it to move really quickly and I want to see what I can get done in an hour. I'm going to use some classic 10 size 10 crochet thread by Aunt Lydia. This gorgeous yellow is called Maze. And since I'm only going to be working on this for an hour, I'm probably only going to need like 40 yards or less, so not very much. And of course, there's 350 yards in one of these skeins or spools, so that's quite a lot. Pair of scissors, a needle with an eye large enough for my thread to pass through. I have some embroidery floss in this so I can see it and grab it quickly. I'm going to just tuck that back into my yarn or my little needle house though, just so it doesn't disappear. And if you have trouble seeing smaller stitches, you might find that a little tiny stitch marker is handy. This is just a little safety pin. I may or may not need it, but I thought I'd have it here. And I'm using a 1.75 millimeter hook. A 2 millimeter hook would be just fine as well. This is also known as a 0, I think. And here we go. So I'm going to move my little stitch marker, my scissors, everything out of the way. And I'm going to start with a base of 18. Everybody can hear us? We've got sound? Everybody, let me just double check here. Most people have sound. Okay, great, great, great. All right, good, good, good. Here we go. I'm going to use a slip knot to start. I'm going to chain a ring. So I'm going to hold this as steadily as I can. This is pretty small, but here we go. Chain 8 to begin. Oops, right off the bat. I got to get my tension going here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, nice and calm. So I've started it at 11:06, so at 12:06 I will finish. So whatever I can get done in an hour. I'm joining those 8 chains to make a ring. I'm going to start in this ring. I'm going to chain 3. I'm not going to let the chain 3 count as a double crochet. I'm going to work 18 double crochet into this ring. So into the ring, 18 double crochet. Hello, Beth. Beth with a membership milestone. Beth has been a member for 18 months. Thank you so much, Beth. Beth says, hello all. Love the color. Have a great Monday. Yes, let's all have a great Monday. I love this yellow. This is one of the colors that I chose for my house. So my house is mainly blue and this yummy sort of straw summery yellow color and blue. So very classic French Provençal, as they say. But it makes decorating a lot easier when you pick a couple of basic colors. So double crocheting 18 times into this. So chain 3 doesn't count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 so far. So that's halfway done. And another 9 double crochet. So this is a real-time 1-hour doily challenge. I want to see how far I can get realistically in an hour. So if you have an hour to spend, then, you know, maybe you can sit down and make yourself a little doily. I don't know how big it's going to get. I don't know how it's going to look. I am going to pay attention to what I'm doing though, because if I like how it looks at the end, I'm going to write up the pattern and I'm going to put it in the shop this afternoon. And if you can hear my puppy, she's at the door sneezing. Does anybody else have a dog that doesn't know how to drink water? She drinks water and she immediately chokes and snorts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 2 more. I want 18 double crochet into this chain 8 ring. I am not counting the chain 3. So 18 double crochet, I'm skipping the chain 3, I'm joining with a slip stitch to the top of the first real double crochet, and there is row 1 complete. So 18 double crochet worked into a chain 8 ring. Manders asks, can you use a magic ring for the beginning? You could, but it's going to be loose because you don't want to actually have a tight center. You want an open center. Plus the chain 8 ring is stronger in this case than a magic ring or a cinch circle would be. So highly recommend the chain 8. You do not want a cinched tight circle because we're using 18 double crochet and they need to be able to lay flat. All right, we're going to chain 4. The chain 4 will count as a double crochet chain 1, and then into the next stitch we're going to work a double crochet chain 1. We're going to work a double crochet chain 1 all the way around. So we'll have 18 double crochets and 18 chain 1 spaces at the end of row 2. Nice and simple, just a simple start. A moderately tall stitch, the double crochet, and the chain 1 space allows us to technically double up our stitch count without really doing a whole lot of extra stitches. So embrace the chains for the doily. Welcome, welcome. If you're just joining us, as you can tell by the name or the title of this live stream, this is a 1-hour doily challenge. I am going to see exactly how far and how big and honestly how pretty a doily I can make in 1 hour. I am not by any stretch of the imagination practiced using a tiny hook and crochet thread, but I do love the look of doilies, and one of my personal challenges for 2025 was to make more doilies, and I have been making more doilies. I've had a reason to. I've got lots of nice pretty new painted surfaces around the house. We've been painting old furniture and I want to protect it and the things I sit on it, so doilies come in very handy for that. Hello, Masha! Masha, haven't seen you in a while. Masha with a very generous super chat. Thank you so much, Masha. Masha says, hi, I've missed you so much. Love a doily challenge. I bet you do. Masha makes amazing doilies. Masha's much more practiced using doily paraphernalia than I am. Let me just double check here. I want to count. I'm going to have 18 chain 1 spaces and 18 double crochets. My chain 4 counted, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So that's 18 double crochet, 18 chain 1. I'm going to join with a slip stitch to the 3rd chain of the chain 4, and it's going to sort of pucker a little bit. That's okay, because you want to focus on making your stitches with the ever increasing stitch count to get a circular pattern. Remember, you can always block it later, and that will be what I do later. I do not consider blocking part of the actual crochet. Hello, Vima. Hello, dear. Vima with a really sweet super chat as well. Thank you so much, Vima. Glad you guys are both here. Yes, Mr. InStitches is indicating that you can zoom in. I'm going to try and hold it as close as I can without it being blurry so we can all see what's happening. Row 3. So to begin, I want to slip stitch into that chain 1 space that's right next to where I joined. Chain 1 single crochet in the same place. So into the chain 1 space right next to where you joined, slip stitch to get there, and then chain 1 single crochet, chain 3, and into the next chain 1 space. So skip over your double crochet right into the space, single crochet, chain 3. So we're going to single crochet chain 3 anchored in every single chain 1 space all the way around. So we'll still have sets of 18 single crochets and 18 chain 3 spaces or chain 3 loops. Single crochet chain 3 anchored in every single chain 1 space all the way around. And we are going to start expanding this little doily. Like I said, we're going to use really basic doily motifs, nothing complicated. The beauty in a doily is really just the repetition of things. So actually, the less complicated sometimes, the better. Single crochet chain 3 in every single chain 1 space. Oh, it's already kind of pretty. Easy does it. I try to remember to hold my crochet hook lightly. It is a little bit better for my tension, certainly, and for manipulating that small little spinning hook. I try to not hold anything very tightly. That includes my thread. Once again, I'm using a size 10, standard size 10, 100% mercerized crochet thread in this beautiful color Maize. Single crochet chain 3 in every single chain 1 space. When you get all the way back around, join with a slip stitch to the top of the first single crochet you made and slip stitch into the chain 3 space. Make it a nice loose slip stitch. Look at this, guys. Already, I think it's pretty. Hey, I'm done. No, I'm just kidding. Little sip of my water. Okay, here we go. Chain 1 single crochet in that chain 3 space from the previous row. Chain 3. And single crochet into the next chain 3 space. So right into the space, don't bother trying to grab a chain. Chain 3. So we're going to single crochet chain 3 now into every single chain 3 space. And if you're worried about losing track of where you are, that's where this little itty bitty stitch marker comes in handy. So I'm going to just slip it into the top of that first single crochet I made. That way, when I kind of maybe just distract myself chit-chatting with you guys, when I get all the way back around to the beginning, I won't accidentally skip over it. So I am marking that first single crochet, single crochet chain 3, anchored in every single chain 3 space all the way around. So far, easy peasy. Single crochets and chains are nice and quick to make. I thank you all so much for being here with me. I hope today's 1-hour doily challenge gives you a little kick in the pants to try doilies if you haven't done so already. And also just maybe to give yourself your own 1-hour challenge. What can you make in an hour? And you know what? No rules here. I'm just going to see how far I get. And so I got to keep an eye on the clock. It's kind of part of the fun. And I'm trying not to, I don't want to rush. Like, I don't want that 1 hour to make me feel rushed. I want to see what I can get done in a nice format inside this hour. So like I said, I'm going to use really simple repeating motifs. The first bit of it is going to be just this spiraling sort of chains and anchor kind of concept. So look, chain 3, I'm back to my stitch marker. I'm really glad I put that there because it starts to get a little difficult to see where you are. So I do recommend using the stitch marker on that first single crochet. Slip stitch to join in the single crochet that started the whole row. I'm already at the end of row 4. I'm just going to put that down and lay it out. I really like how that's coming along so far. I'm using a 1.75 millimeter hook, Josie. It's also known as a 0, but a 2 millimeter would be great as well. Matilda just ordered some crochet thread. Woo! Ooh, purple. I'd love to get my hands on some purple. That would be so nice. Okay. Moving right along into the next chain 3 space, I'm going to slip stitch. So I'm always sort of slip stitching into the next space to start. Make it a fairly loose slip stitch because you want to sort of start in the middle of that chain 3 space. Chain 1 single crochet in that space to start row 5. I am going to put my my stitch marker back on the first stitch of the row because I really find that helps. Excuse me, I don't want to get lost. And now we're going to expand the size of the little chained loops that we're making. There we go. So instead of chain 3, it's going to be chain 4. Easy peasy. So chain 4 now, and then into the next chain 3 space from the previous row, single crochet. So single crochet chain 4, single crochet chain 4, anchor in every single space from the previous row. So single crochet chain 4 now, and we will still have sets of 18. There'll be 18 single crochet and 18 chain 4 loops now. single crochet, chain 4, single crochet, chain 4, anchoring in the middle of those space. You don't have to grab a chain. Just keep it light and loose, loosey-goosey. Single crochet, chain 4, chains are nice and quick, single crochets are nice and simple, and anchoring something in a fairly obvious to see loopy space makes things a little easier. You can move a little faster, and that is the whole point of this doily challenge today. I think so far my biggest challenge is just keeping the thread coming off my spool in a nice even way. I could stick it in one of my bowls. I think I'll do that. Okay. Single crochet, chain 4. I am back to that handy dandy little stitch marker. Really good to have that in that first single crochet. Join with a slip stitch to that first single crochet. That is row 5 complete. It is the first time in which we do single crochet, chain 4, anchor, single crochet, chain 4, anchor all the way around. It's already looking very lacy and pretty. I'm just going to grab one of my bowls here. There we go. Now I've got my thread in a bowl. It can bounce around it till its heart's content. Okay, moving on. I'm going to repeat row 5 again. So I really like how this is sort of slowly expanding. I'm going to pull up on that loop a little bit so it's a little looser and slip stitch gently into that chain 4 space. Chain 1, single crochet in that space, and I'm going to repeat the chain 4. So single crochet, chain 4. Now before I go further, I'm going to make sure I put my stitch marker in on that first little single crochet. I do not want to miss that. There we go. And then I'm just looking for the chain 4 space from the previous row, and I'm single crocheting right into it, chain 4. So single crochet, chain 4, single crochet, chain 4. It's a repeat of the previous row. We're just slowly expanding. Barbara's wondering if you can use regular yarn for this. I would say yes. Here's what I would suggest. Make yourself a really stunning table center or a placemat. Again, I don't know how big this is going to get in an hour, but if you wanted to, use a size 4 medium weight 100% cotton, like a 24/7 by Lion Brand, and let's say a 5mm hook, and use that with this pattern, and it'll obviously be much bigger, and it will turn itself into a very pretty little placemat. In fact, if I like the way this looks when I'm done, I will try one in a size 4 medium weight, and I'll make myself a little placemat. Possibly an entire setting. Vima's working on a threaded version of a hexagon cardi. That's going to be really pretty. Thank you, Heidi. We'll see how it goes. I'm going to try and keep my tension somewhat even here. I'm getting excited, so I'm trying not to get carried away. All right, I want to make sure I didn't miss anything. Doesn't look like I did. All right, and chain 4, and thank goodness I am using that little safety pin because as my stitch marker, because I get back around to this start very quickly. Slip stitch to join. All right. So that is the end of row 6. We've got, just to sum up, a chain 8 ring to begin, 18 double crochets in row 1. Row 2 was a double crochet chain 1 in every single stitch all the way around. So you had 18 double crochets, 18 chain 1 spaces. For row 3, we did single crochet chain 3, single crochet chain 3 anchored in every chain 1 space all the way around. So we still had 18 stitches and 18 chain 3 loops. We repeated that for row 4. In row 5, we started with a single crochet chain 4, always anchored into the loop, the loop from the previous row. And in row 6, we repeated row 5. So that was single crochet chain 4, single crochet chain 4 anchored in every single little loop all the way around. Let's keep this wagon train going. I'm going to pull up on that loop to make it a little loose. I'm going to slip stitch gently, I can maybe tighten that a little bit, into the chain 4 space from the previous row. Chain 1, single crochet, and now we're moving on to 5 chains. So we're going to just make this meshy middle a little bit bigger. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 chains, single crochet into the next chain 4 loop. So we've still got sets of 18 single crochets in every single row and 18 chained loops, but now instead of a chain 3 or a chain 4, it's a chain 5, and I'm putting my stitch marker back in that first single crochet. And why does my hand not want to work? There we go. Single crochet chain 5 now, and then single crochet chain 5 in every single loop all the way around, and we're going to repeat this row again. So we're going to do a nice spiraling meshy center. It is easy, it is quick, and it's very attractive. Let's not get that all messed up. There we go. So I'm anchoring it just in the chained loop. I'm not trying to grab a chain or anything. It is just much easier to just put it right through the loop. Or the space. I guess you could call this the chain 4 space from the previous row. Single crochet chain 5 now on this row, and we're going to repeat this once more. I am 20 minutes into this doily, only 20 minutes, and I like the way it's going. So that's a good sign. Let's see what else I can do in 40 minutes. All right, I'm going to take out my stitch marker. That is so handy. I'm back to it so quickly. Slip stitch to join in that first single crochet I made. Let's lay it flat and have a look. Looking good, looking good. So it's this, I'm going to take a picture of that, you know, I really like that. How pretty. Pretty, pretty, pretty. Okay. Let's repeat that row. So I'm going to pull up on that loop a little bit, not too much. I'm going to slip stitch nice and gently into that chain 5 space. Chain 1 single crochet in that same space. That starts whatever row we're up to now, row 8, I think. And then chain 5 again. Let me just chain 5 to get away from my single crochet and give me a little space. So chain 5, I'm going to put my stitch marker back in on that single crochet. I think this takes me longer than crocheting the whole row does. There we go. So that's back in place. And then it is single crochet, chain 5, anchored in every single chain 5 loop all the way around. So single crochet, chain 5, anchored in every chain 5 loop from the previous row. Easy peasy. Trying not to be too tight. Kind of keeping a loose grip on my hook here. Oops, don't want to try to grab any other loops. Right into the space. All right, and one more, single crochet, chain 5. Okay, I'm back to my stitch marker, handy little thing. Let's take that out. Join with a slip stitch to the first single crochet that I made. That is the end of row 8, and I think that's as much of the little sort of spiraling center as I want to do. Let's see how far along I am here. 9 centimeters or 3.5 inches wide so far. So I'm going to guess that if you were using a size 4 medium weight cotton yarn and a 5mm hook, also known as an H or an 8, and doing exactly the same thing, this would be roughly 2 times the size, maybe 2.5, 3 times the size. So you'd probably be at 6 inches or a little better already. And that would be working its way up into a nice table placemat. Like I said, if I like how this turns out, I'm going to try one like that and make a place setting. Hello, Kevin. Kevin's been a member for 14 months. Thank you, Kevin. Kevin says, hey, Jayda and everyone, tomorrow is my birthday. Hey, happy early birthday, Kevin. Marvelous. All right, guys, let's change things up. I'm going to move from the really simple repeating stitch pattern of these little anchored chained spaces. So I really like that spiraling. It looks like the middle of a very complicated flower. So pretty. I'm going to switch now to split shells. Simple split shells. I'm going to start. I've got 18 chain 5 spaces all the way around. So here I go. I'm going to sort of gently slip stitch into that chain 5 space, the first one. I'm going to chain 3, which I will allow to count for a double crochet. I'm going to double crochet once into that chain 5 space. I'm going to chain 2 and work 2 more double crochet into that space. So we're starting with a nice small little split shell. 2 double crochet, chain 2, 2 double crochet, and that is that technically is 6 stitches. So you've got, let's say the chain 3 counts as a double crochet, another double crochet, chain 2, 2 double crochet. So that's technically 6 stitches, but I want space. So I'm going to chain 1 before I go to the next chain 5 space and do that again. 2 double crochet, chain 2, and 2 double crochet. Now I'm just starting with this. I'm going to get a few motifs along. I'm going to lay it flat and I'm going to see if I like it. Chain 1 in between those small split shells, 2 double crochet, chain 2, and 2 double crochet. And in between these small split shells, I'm going to chain 1, just so I have enough space. Last thing I want is for it to like bunch up on me. Yeah, I think that's going to be fine. Let's go 2 double crochet, chain 2, and 2 double crochet, and chain 1. So a nice tallish double crochet. I'm not jumping into anything too complicated or really big yet. The nice thing about working with the small thread is that if you do tall stitches like trebles and double trebles, they're not as complicated or difficult as they are to do with a regular hook and yarn, because you're, you know, just using it's a smaller space, so it's not as problematic to hold it. I think this is going to be just fine. So I'm going to continue with this. Into every chain 5 space around, 2 double crochet, chain 2, 2 double crochet, chain 1. So a small split shell with a chain 1 sort of separating each of those little motifs. So we'll have 18 small split shells at the end of this row and 18 chain 1 spaces in between. And we're just going to keep on going. I love this 1 hour doily challenge. I really do want to know how fancy a doily you can make inside of an hour. How big does it get? And, you know, it's realistic. I'm not super fast at crocheting with thread or small hooks. And like I said, I'm just sort of designing this as I go. I'm just using the basic ever increasing circle math, which is that you typically have to add an extra stitch per motif every time you go around for every row. There's a little bit of flexibility in there, but that's generally the idea. So I'm using your basic ever expanding circle math, and I'm using super basic repeating motifs, nothing complicated, nothing that would, you know, be hard to see. Because I want this to move along quickly, but also be relatively attractive. So 2 double crochet, chain 2, 2 double crochet, chain 1 in every single chain 5 space. We're introducing small split shell motifs to this little doily, and it's coming along nicely so far. I'm quite pleased. I think once I am finished this first row of small split shells, I will re-engage my stitch marker, because once again, this is a very different looking row than the previous row of just chain 5 loops. So I want to make sure that I can, it's easy for me to sort of see the difference between this row and the previous row, but once I continue on using this motif, it might be just better for me to use that stitch marker on the first stitch of the row. Plus it kind of helps me keep track of how far around I am at a glance, especially if I'm chit-chatting with you guys. 2 double crochet, chain 2, 2 double crochet, chain 1 in every single chain 5 space. Give myself a little slack. Yep, I think that'll be fine. And like I said, you want to embrace the chain for a doily. So we're going to continue using small split shells, but we're just going to increase the number of chains that sit between them. So not the chain 2 in between the double crochet. So the small split shell will continue to be 2 double crochet, chain 2, 2 double crochet, but we're going to change the number of chains in between those motifs. So this one was 1 single chain in between them, and this next row is going to be 2 chains in between. Easy peasy. I want this to be nice and simple. So last motif, 2 double crochet, chain 2, 2 double crochet, chain 1, join with a slip stitch to the top of the chain 3 that began that row. There we go. I'm going to lay it down. So again, this is going to get blocked when it's all finished, but I like the way it's shaping up so far. I've got 18 small split shells all the way around. I have 18 chain 1 spaces in between, and the little chain 2 that sits in between a split shell. So here's a shell, and then there's the chain 2 that sits in between. That creates this nice little point. So I'm going to have 18 pretty little points running all the way around the outside. So in order to keep that, I want to slip stitch into the next stitch, which was a double crochet, and then slip stitch into the chain 2 space. So the chain 2 space in between those two sets of double crochets, double crochet, chain 2, double crochet, double crochet. You want to start every row where you're using like a split shell motif, preferably in the middle of that split shell. That just keeps all of your split shells directly on top of each other. Chain 3 to begin. Finish that with a double crochet, chain 2 and 2 more double crochet, all worked into the same space. That is the center or the middle of the small split shell from the previous row. So you can see that there. So 2, chain 2, 2, and then 2, chain 2, 2 on top. I'm going to mark this motif. I'm not going to bother trying to grab the actual double crochet or the chain 3 that began it. I'm just going to stick my stitch marker right through that chain 2 middle, because that just tells me that's the first motif of the row. So that's easy to see. And now I want to increase the number of chains between motifs. So instead of chain 1 like the previous row, I'm going to chain 2, and that's the only difference. 2 double crochet, chain 2, 2 double crochet. That's the motif built into the middle of the motif from the previous row. So you can see that there, right on top of itself. And now chain 2 to jump across to the next one. So always in the middle of the previous row's motif, 2 double crochet, chain 2, 2 double crochet. And I'm just expanding the number of chains between the motifs. Easy, easy math, easy motif. And it actually makes for a rather pretty looking doily. So far, so good. Give myself a little bit of slack. 2 chains and then right into another motif. 2 double crochet, chain 2, 2 double crochet, and chain 2. I'm going to just flatten this in a second. We'll get a look at how it's shaping up. And one more. 2 double crochet, chain 2, 2 double crochet. Okay. Oops. Okay, so you can sort of see a bit better there how they all kind of, I'm going to take a picture of that. That's really pretty. So each motif sits in the middle of the motif from the previous row, and the only thing that's changing is the number of chains between the motifs. So there's the chain 2 in between the motifs, so that the motifs don't change, but the spaces between them will get bigger and bigger. Easy math. It allows for it to ever expand, and there's no like super complicated, you know, oh, and then you do this and slip stitch here and chain there. No, just simple little motifs. We want this to be a quick doily. So we are on technically row 10 so far. It's the second row where we're using the small split shell motif. 2 double crochet, chain 2, 2 double crochet is the small split shell, and then chain 2 to move along to the next split shell. And that will keep the whole thing laying flat. And like I said, I still need to block it when it's finished. But with a doily, you can also give it a little bit of a starch. And you can use sort of spray starch like you would for doing a little ironing. You can also use a sugar starch if you're going to do something like hang it on a tree, or it's not going to kind of come into a lot of contact with other things. I don't bother starching my doilies. I find typically with the cotton, after I block it and let it dry naturally in the air, it's generally fine, like it's stiff enough. Aha, a little knot. This is going to slow me down a little bit. How dare you? Get out of my thread. There we go. Two double crochet, chain two, two double crochet, chain two. Hello, Cindy Ann. Cindy Ann is slipping into winter. Cindy Ann with a membership milestone. Thank you so much, Cindy. Cindy's been a member for 57 months. Says, hello, Jayda from Chile, South Africa. Nice doily. Thank you. Doilies, thankfully, are nice any time of the year, no matter what the weather. So it's a nice warm weather thing to do because it's not super hot. But doilies are so pretty. They always make me think of snowflakes, and they're just a nice way to decorate your home. That's exactly what this one's going to do. It's going to decorate some freshly painted furniture. Give myself a little more slack here. Lori's just finished a poop bag. Friday we did a little mini plastic bag dispenser with the idea of it being sort of a doggy do bag, but honestly it's a clip it style. So you can clip it to your purse, you can clip it to your car, you can clip it to your dog's leash, you can really clip it anywhere. Good for camping, car trips, dog walks. We did that on Friday, and see, a lot of you have made one or several, which I think is great. I've made one for the car. I've got one for Penny. It's in her little bag. So anytime we go out, I can just grab that for going for a long walk. And it's also a nice way to remember to reuse some of those other small little bags that come our way. You know, bread bags and the bags that, you know, just some of, like, sometimes you order stuff online, like yarn or whatever, and it might come in a bag. If a bag doesn't have any holes in it, like it didn't need breathing holes, it makes for a pretty decent garbage bag. And if it's a plastic bag with little air holes in it, that's a nice little dry garbage bag. So, you know, like your candy wrappers and stuff that you might have with you if you're in the car. So it's a nice way to reuse those little bags because they're not always recyclable. We do not have a small bag recycling option where we are, so I like to use them as best I can. Penny is 9 months old now, Barbara. And yes, Mr. InStitches jumping in there. She'll be 10 on the 31st of July. June 30th. She'll be 10 months, June 30th? July 30th. She was born, 10 months on June 30th, because she was born August the 31st. So yeah, June 30th. She'll be 10 months at the end of this month. Last motif, 2 double crochet, chain 2, 2 double crochet, chain 2. I'm joining with a slip stitch to the top of that chain 3. And you know what? Just marking the middle of that first motif with my stitch marker was really handy. So I'm going to continue to do that. So I'm going to bring that out. And let's keep on going. I'm going to slip stitch across and into the middle of that small motif. I'm going to continue with the small motif for now. So chain 3, double crochet, chain 2, and 2 more double crochet all into that same place so that all of my motifs all line up, one right on top of each other. So you can really see that now if I get my hand out of the way. So motif from row 9, motif from row 10, and we're just starting row 11. So there it is there. And now we're going to continue to increase the number of chains between motifs. We're going to chain 3. And I'm going to put my stitch marker back in the middle of that motif so I can find it when I get back around. There we go. So small motif, 2 double crochet, chain 2, 2 double crochet, and now chain 3 in between. Gives us a little more space. Why does that first one always give me a little trouble? the chains want to spin around the hook, so I've got to hold. There we go. There we go. Double crochet. 2 double crochet. Chain 2 and 2 double crochet. So the motif isn't changing, just the number of chains between them. So 2 double crochet, chain 2, 2 double crochet is the motif, and now chain 3, and that stretches us over to the next one. So we're getting gradually larger spaces in between the motifs, which is fine. One, two, three. Oops. Only 2 in the middle. 2 double crochet, chain 2, 2 double crochet, then we chain 3. And let me get a couple motifs in and I'll lay it flat, and we can see that ever expanding sort of space between them. Got to keep an, oh my gosh, I am almost 50 minutes in. So I've got 10 minutes to wrap up this little motif. So let's get me to the end of this row. And so I'm going to try and speed up a little bit. I don't want to rush. I don't want to rush. I just want to try and complete an entire doily inside of 1 hour. So I technically have 16 minutes left to finish this doily somehow. So I think after I finish this row of split shells, I want to do something kind of really big and lacy. I want to maybe highlight the points. I'm literally going to think as I crochet here. So 3 chains in between the motifs. So there we go. I'm about halfway done. So let's lay this flat. And you can sort of see how it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Gee whiz, I think another row of the split shells, if I've got the time, I want to do it. I really like that ever increasing size, like space in between. Do I have the time? How quickly can I crochet? I think I can do it. So 2 double crochet, chain 2, 2 double crochet, chain 3, and then next row I'm going to do the exact same small motif but with 4 chains in between, and then if I'm lucky I'll have just enough time to do like a final row. Doesn't help that I keep slipping out of my... Okay. Patience, Jayda, patience. Yeah, I really feel this would look good if I did another row of the small split shells. So I'm going to try and squeeze it in and hope that I can make it. I am kind of moving along a little quicker now, so when a doily gets a little bigger, obviously you've got a little more, a little something more to hang on to, so it's a little easier to manage. When it's small, you know, it's a bit finicky. So that's my last, my 18th split shell, chain 3, and join with a slip stitch to the top of the chain 3. I have that first motif marked with a stitch marker. Very handy. Glad I'm doing that. So I can move my stitch marker now nice and carefully. So here we go. I've got my little motifs still kind of ever increasing. I think that looks really cute. Let me get that more onto the camera there. I'm gonna have a little sip of my water. Okay, I do want to do another row of the split shells. I think I've got enough time to do it. So quickly, I'm going to slip stitch into the next stitch and into the chain 2 space, which is the middle of the split shell. Chain 3 starts that split shell, finish it with a double crochet, chain 2, and 2 more double crochets. So that's my first motif of the row. I'm going to put my little stitch marker back in so that I don't blow past it when I come back around, because now I want to see if I can do this really, really quickly. And instead of 1, 2, 3, it's going to be 4 chains. Actually, no, let's make it interesting. Let's go 2 chains, a single crochet in the middle of that chain 3, and 2 chains. Yeah. So 2 double crochet, chain 2, 2 double crochet. The little small split shell motif is not changing. But now we're going to change things up. We're going to go 2 chains, a single crochet in the middle of the chain 3 space from the previous row, and 2 chains, and then we start over again. 2 double crochet, chain 2, 2 double crochet is the small split shell motif. And then chain 2, single crochet in the middle of the chain 3 space, chain 2, and then start again. And that's just going to really punch out that little point. And since I'm nearing the end here of my hour, and I really do want to try and make this a complete doily in a single hour, this being the 1 hour doily challenge, I want it to be a realistic doily so that if you want to try it yourself, you'll know that it'll only roughly take you an hour. And keep in mind that you will speed up as you go. You know, once you get comfortable with the motif, once you get comfortable with that hook and that small thread, you do speed up. Provided your thread doesn't want to sort of knot up on you. Chain 2, single crochet, chain 2 in that chain 3 space from the previous row, and then the same little small split shell. 2 double crochet, chain 2, 2 double crochet in the middle of the split shell from the previous row. I'm going to try and keep myself on the camera here. I have to, my arms kind of want to keep moving forward on me. So 2 chains, single crochet, 2 chains, and then back to the little motif. All right. I have less than 10 minutes to go. 2 chains, single crochet, 2 chains, 2 chains, single crochet, 2 chains, and then another small shell, 2 double crochet, 2 chains, 2 double crochet. Chain 2, single crochet, chain 2, and motif. So I'm coming around the bend here. I do think that this would make a very pretty placemat. I am going to try that. Chain 2, single crochet, chain 2, and then another small split shell. 2 double crochet, chain 2, 2 double crochet in the middle of the split shell from the previous row. So we're still dealing with a base of 18. There's always 18 things, 18 small split shells, 18 spaces in between. In this case now it's like a little kind of divot, chain 2, single crochet, chain 2 into that little the chain 3 space from the previous row. That just helps to kind of punch out the points that are created by making the little split shell motif. It's a nice little addition. And chain 2, single crochet, chain 2, the only thing that drives me crazy about thread coming off a spool is that it twists, it spins, like you're kind of like the twist of the thread is twisting between your fingers, so it kind of wants to just sort of spin, spiral, tangle kind of on you. Chain 2, single crochet, chain 2, one more, and then we finish with 2 single crochet, or sorry, chain 2, single crochet, chain 2, and then we join with a slip stitch to the top of the chain 3. All right, I am 5 minutes short of my, whoops, come here you, 5 minutes short of my 1 hour time limit. So that is what I can get done in an hour. I would like to block it. I'm thinking that a row of single crochet all the way around would be a nice way to finish it, but at the same time, I do like that kind of soft, floating kind of look that I get from, oh yeah, there we go guys. So that is a 1 hour doily. How big? Using a 1.75 millimeter hook, also known as a 0, or you could use a 2 millimeter. So I'm just going to go up a little bit more so you can see the whole thing. That's a size 10 crochet thread. It is 16 centimeters or almost 6 1/4 inches in diameter. That is so pretty. So we've started with a very basic little circle. We did that nice kind of spiraling chainy loop thing. That's really nice. It looks like the center of a rose. Then we transitioned into a small split shell motif, gradually making them further and further apart by increasing the number of chains in between. And then the last row, I just sort of highlighted those points by putting a divot in between two chains, single crochet, 2 chains, and that just kind of creates a bit of a divot. I do like the idea of single crocheting all the way around to make it a little bit denser. I've got 3 minutes left, so I'm just going to see. I'm going to chain 1 single crochet in the same stitch that I joined in, single crochet into the next stitch, work 2 single crochet, actually 2, I'm going to work a single crochet, chain 1 single crochet in the chain 2 space, and then single crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. I think I'm going to go 2 single crochet down that chain 2, single crochet in the single crochet, 2 single crochet in the chain 2, and then single crochet in each double crochet. So the only thing I'm changing is in the space between, in the middle of the split shell, I'm going to work single crochet, chain 1 single crochet. That's just going to maintain that little point. Everything else gets a single crochet. So if it's a double crochet, it gets a single crochet. If it's the little chain 2 space, it gets 2 single crochet, 1 for each chain, a single crochet in the middle of that single crochet, and then 2 single crochet in the chain 2 space. So everything gets a single crochet except for the middle of the split shell. There you go. It's going to make it a little thicker. And in the middle of the split shell, in that chain 2 in the middle, I go single crochet, chain 1 single crochet, and I'm just going to zip around here, single crocheting as quickly as my little fingers can go, so I can finish at that 1 hour mark. I'll be close. I'll be close. Also taking into account that I did pause a couple times, I will give myself that. So this is the 1 hour doily challenge. I kind of came up with the pattern on the spot. It wasn't obviously super complicated. I decided to just go with a couple of really basic motifs. I used the ever-increasing math for an ever-increasing circle. So nothing complicated, but this was kind of a fun challenge. If I'd had a pattern that I was working from, like if I actually had a pattern to work from, I might have been able to make something bigger and faster just because I didn't have to think and design as I went. But I knew that the math would work out, provided I used the right stitches. Yeah, so that's nice. That just gives it that little strength of edge. So single crochet, 1, 2 single crochets. Thank you very much, everybody. And I'm going to zip through this final row of single crochet, making sure I work single crochet, chain 1 single crochet in the middle of each small split shell, because that will just accentuate that pretty little point. Everything else gets a single crochet, and I should be very close to keeping it to exactly an hour. If I can stop keeping my hook from slipping out of my yarn. Am I about halfway around? I'm almost halfway around. So the single crochet bit is pretty mindless. You're just making sure that every stitch gets a single crochet. The chain 2, single crochet, chain 2, you work 5 single crochets across that because there's 4 chains and 1 single crochet. So just evenly disperse your single crochets there. A single crochet in the top of each double crochet of the small split shells, and then the only thing that's different is in the chain 2 between, you do single crochet, chain 1 single crochet, and that just accentuates that point. And I don't know how much yarn, or I should say how much thread I've used here, but I'm going to guess that it was like under 45 yards. Lori's planning on adding it to A glass jar. Yes, I think so. Potted plant gift. I agree. Doilies are really pretty, and they're not just for sort of plunking on a table and, you know, forgetting about them. They're useful. They protect surfaces from things. They're not just pretty, but then you can also just sort of turn them into pretty little decorative things. You could sort of put this over a jar lid and run a ribbon through it and cover a jar with it. Now this might be a little large, but I mean, you know, I don't think that's a big deal. It'll look extra pretty. You could wrap something like this around a rock from the garden and have a really pretty doorstop. Just endless uses for doilies. And, you know, at the end of the day, you can also wear them. You can use them as really amazing appliques on the back of like denim jackets and stuff. Tell everybody you're a crocheter by, you know, you wear your denim or your leather jacket, but it's got like a pretty little crochet doily on the back. I don't know. I think that looks pretty neat myself. Coming around. Trying to keep that yarn or the thread from wanting to twist constantly. Okay. Single crochet, chain one single crochet in the middle of the split shell, so that keeps that pretty little point going. Everything else gets a single crochet. And then it's just a matter of fastening off and weaving in the little tail, and of course some blocking to finish it, which I do not include in the 1 hour challenge because blocking is sort of a finishing thing. I want to know how much time I've wasted constantly trying to untwist this thread. Also having my hook fall out of my hook fall out of my little loop. All right, this is the last one. Chain one, single crochet. Last 2 stitches. All right, and join with a slip stitch to the first single crochet that you made. Fasten off, woohoo! And take a moment to weave in the tail, but before I do that, I want to just pull out each of these pretty little chain one points. I will block this properly later, but I always like to do this when I finish with something just so I can get an idea of the completed look. And then I can weave in the tail. Yeah, that is very pretty. Simple and pretty. I like it. Okay, I'm going to weave my little tail in now, just underneath that last row of single crochet. I'm just going to get a little picture of that. I really like that. I've been taking little pictures all the way along, which is kind of fun. All right, so weaving in tail on the back. I flip it over, get that needle under some of the single crochets that are there. Easy does it. I don't want to split my thread using this needle. Get through a few of them there. There we go. And then gently double back. I probably don't have to worry about this wanting to come undone. Actually, maybe I'll continue in the same direction for a little bit because this is so small. The stitching is relatively snug and I'm not too worried about my tail wanting to come undone. Plus, it's a doily. I won't be washing it very often, and if I do, I will be doing it by hand because I do not want it ruined by flipping around endlessly in the washing machine, and I certainly wouldn't put it in the dryer. Dryers are great, but they tend to kill things. So I think that's all I'm going to do. I'm not even going to double back. I'm just going to, because it's kind of thick. So that is that. One more last little kind of tug out. And there you go, everybody. I love the way this worked out. I think one of the things I'm going to try is I'm going to write up this pattern because I really like how simple it is. I like how it looks. I think this is a really cute little doily for, gosh, anything. But this is definitely going to be on one of my new bits of furniture underneath probably a pretty white picture somewhere. And I'm definitely going to try it using a larger hook and a larger, a thicker yarn, like a size 4. 100% cotton yarn because I think this would make a gorgeous place setting. Yes, so that's going to be my next little miniature challenge for myself. I'm going to make this out of yarn and a hook for a placemat because I think that would be so pretty as a placemat. I am going to write up this pattern. You will find this pattern in our Etsy shop probably later today because I want to make sure I have some nice photographs and, you know, maybe even get this blocked and stuff. So if you want to have a copy of this little pattern for yourself, so you can try it either with the crochet thread or with the larger yarn, I will include helpful instructions about upsizing the hook and yarn in that. I'll even do a couple of little swatches to kind of give you an idea of how large it gets. So you can find that in our Etsy shop later on today if you are so interested. And if you are, thank you for picking up the pattern because it will help us out. It certainly helps keep us going here, and I love this little challenge. This was a lot of fun. Thank you guys so much for being here. Josie's wondering where I got the needle. So the little needle, this is just it's like a regular sewing needle for embroidery floss. It's got a slightly larger eye, but it's technically still a needle. So it's like an embroidery floss needle, I guess. I probably got this in one of those, you know, if you go to the dollar store and you get one of those little circular things that kind of like opens and you can kind of knock they have different sized needles in it. It probably came out of one of those because I've had it forever, and that's typically where I buy little groups of needles because I like to embroider and I like to sew. Thank you guys for being here. Have a wonderful afternoon. Enjoy the rest of your week. We'll see you Friday for a very fun video, and it's another one in our new summer series of the Great Odds and Ends project. And doilies, if you make one, send me a photo at the Etsy shop. I'd love to see how it turned out. I'll have another picture of this for the post in the posts tab later on today, and a link back to this tutorial. I will also add some chapters. So if you want to jump ahead, I'll have some chapters in it for you as well. Have a great week. Stay safe, stay crafty, enjoy the weather, and we'll see you soon. Bye, guys.